Call of the Void contains strong language and possible trigger warnings and is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Deakon.
Hi, I'm Jack.
And welcome to Call of the Void, a podcast about all things weird and macabre. So, those of you who might know me, will probably know that I am, huge into board games.
You wrote great post on the Fierce Ferrets website at one time.
Yeah, I did a big
top 10 board games.
Yeah, here's the best board games you can probably buy for somebody for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a it's a thing that I really love, and it's I used to write reviews on board games for a while. I won't say the name of the website that I used to write for, but yeah, I used to write a bunch of reviews and stuff, and it was really fun, and I still am super passionate about board games, and so I thought that maybe for this episode, we could talk a little bit about some horror-themed board games.
I am excited.
That are some of my favorite board games. I love playing these games a lot.
Before we get into it, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What is it about board games that, that you're into? What is it about them that you love so much?
So, with board games and, board games and tabletop RPGs are sort of in the same vein for me. And it's because I don't know, I guess it's a more intimate experience with other people.
I'm laughing
as weird
because
as that,
that's exactly why I usually don't play board games.
I mean, it's a weird thing to say, but whenever you play a video game,
yeah,
you can be playing with another person, but it's a little bit more impersonal because you're playing it's a digital thing. And I mean, even if you're playing a board game in something like Tabletop Simulator,
yeah,
it still feels like a different experience than playing something a AAA video game in multiplayer with another person where you shoot boys in the face.
Yeah.
It feels different. I don't know why, but there's more involvement. There's more thought and strategy put into it. There's things, you learn things about the people and their play styles based on board games and stuff. And I don't know exactly what it is, but there's it's a more personal experience.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing in person with other people. It's a chance to get to sit around a table with friends and get to know them better, spend time with them.
I do like Cards Against Humanity. I know it's not a board game, but I do like Cards Against Humanity a lot.
I think it still counts in
yeah,
the realm of board game, even if it's a card game, because there's still card games that I consider in the same realm.
They have I just saw before we sat down to record, there's now a Star Wars Cards Against Humanity.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that. I would really like to play that. Gives a whole new meaning to Rando Calrissian.
Oh yeah.
So that's fun. But yeah, so I just wanted to know because I'm always interested to hear why people are passionate about the things that they're passionate about, especially since I'm somebody who is incredibly excitable about the things I love. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just board games have a chance to be extremely creative with I guess I don't want to say like the limited amount of things that they can do, but I mean, there have been board games that release and it's just components in a box, and it says something along the lines of, hey, here's a bunch of components that we use to create our own games. We thought that you might enjoy buying them and creating your own games with them. Here you go. Like, there have been those kind of things before, and they're usually still great. Like, there are things that you can add to other games, like modifiers or whatever. You know, it's dumb shit like that. But also,
I always feel like I have tremendous amounts of respect for people who can make these things, because like one of the things I keep thinking of is the Fallout board game, because it's like, it's fucking intense. It is super intense, and there's so much, like, it's one of those games that it's like, I hate to say it because it's cliche, but you definitely pick it up as you go along. But there's a lot of components. There's a lot of things that you have to, like, keep in a certain order, like, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like board games in and of themselves, like, they can give you an amount of stress and intensity that other mediums can't.
Yeah.
Because you're involved in it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, whenever you look at a board game and you open it up, it is the creator's vision in a box.
Yeah.
Literally everything that they saw, and they were like, this is what I want to release.
Yeah.
Everything that's in that box was their entire creative vision for this thing. Yeah. And there are modifiers later on and expansions later on that they might add to, like, change things up or whatever. But when you look at something like Root or, I don't know, whatever, like, you look at it and you're like, huh, I can see exactly what, and I get to experience exactly what this person wanted me to experience.
You know what I really want to, like, one of the, and you guys at playing at home should all check it out too. Something I really want to check out is, Power Outage.
Yes.
One of the members of, on the Fierce Ferrets, community, B-Bars, is super cool dude. He made, his own, like, D&D type game, Power Outage, and it's really for everybody. He geared it more toward kids, but, like, literally anybody can play it. And that was because he's a dad, so he wanted to make a game to get kids into games like D&D and Starfinder and all that. So I'd really, really like to check that out. At some point.
Did you see like, he so originally whenever he started pitching this, Matt Mercer retweeted it.
Matt Mercer is like, he's such a great person.
So Matt Mercer retweeted it, and it got him a huge following
on Kickstarter and everything.
Yeah, like, he put out a thank you that was like, hey Matt, you know, thanks for changing my life, you know, you helped me out a lot. And he was like, I want to send you guys, like, a complimentary copy. And Matt was like, sure, shoot us an email and we'll get things set up.
He was like,
and
hey,
I was like,
that's great, thanks.
I was like, boy, what if they start doing, like, because they do those one-shots and stuff?
Dude,
if they do a Power Outage one-shot?
If the Critical Role people do a Power Outage one-shot, that would be awesome.
But I'm super proud of B-Bars. He's great.
Yeah, B-Bars is, like, and again, he's just such an awesome, positive person. Like, his Twitter account makes me crack up every single time I read something from it. We should also bring that up to Luke. We should do, in the event that, even if it's like a community night thing, we should do a power outage thing maybe at some point. That might be cool. Yeah.
But
sorry to derail you.
No, you're fine. It was a thing that was great to talk about. Like we should bring that up because it's a thing that I really do think that people should check out. It's really cool. But to dive right into here are some, horror themed games that I think that people out there might enjoy. And I'm going to start off with probably my favorite board game of all time, Betrayal at House on the Hill. This game is like a shitty B horror movie in a box.
Has everything.
And so you start off the game and you're playing and you're like discovering rooms and stuff, and as you play, the house will like change every single time you play it because the rooms you discover might be different and in a different order or whatever. And there are like 50 different scenarios that, like, once you start the haunt, like, somebody is now a traitor and you don't know who it's going to be at the beginning of the game, and now somebody is working against you to kill you in some fashion or whatever, and there's like a bunch of different scenarios that you can go through, so every single game that you play isn't going to be exactly the same. It's really great. And they recently put out Betrayal Legacy, which I got a chance to play with Luke and Jen and Jack in New York, and they loved it.
Listen, like I said at the start of the episode, I'm not somebody who likes to play board games usually. Like, I have to really be in the mood to play whatever. If not for the fact that Deakon and I needed to get up early the next day because we were going into Manhattan to spend the day, I was literally like disappointed that we had to stop playing.
Yep.
Because I would have played until like 10 a.m. the next morning if we could have. It was so much fun. It's
a super good game, and I can't wait until the next time that I'm able to come up that way so we can continue playing, because I want to see what happens next.
We called our game Call of the Ferrets.
Yes. And I will pretty much forever remember Ice-T. And
oh god, it was oh shit. No, I got this. It was fuck. Hang on, you know what? Keep going. I'm gonna look it up. What the name was, because I have it written down somewhere.
It's gonna be great because I'm gonna start talking about it in the game, and you're just gonna like pop up with a ridiculous name. Yeah,
because I need to give our incredible ferret mom Jen props for this ridiculous family name.
But the next, speaking of like shitty B horror movie, there's another game on the list, and maybe one more that I'm going to talk about. So if you like zombies, I'm personally not a huge fan of zombies, but this game is fantastic, and it kind of simulates those like shitty 80s horror movies. It's called Last Night on Earth. So you have a group of people who are playing as heroes and a group of people who are playing as zombies, and you're trying to kill each other. The heroes are trying to escape or whatever, and the zombies are trying to kill the heroes. You know, the usual. But it's really cool because, like I said, it's a game where you have a group who is actively playing as the bad guy. Trying to playing as the zombies, which is actually really, really super fun. But again, I'm not like super huge into the whole like zombie thing, but Last Night on Earth is a fantastic zombie game, and it's super fun. And I have a couple other zombie games on the list, just mainly because I own them. But they're a lot of fun to play, and they're ones that a lot of, like, whenever I go over to a friend's house for game night, they're some of the first games that people ask to play. I'm gonna skip down in my list a little bit since we're still talking about the whole shitty B horror movie thing.
I found the name, by the way.
What is it?
So the family name she picked was De Shoopwoop Le Geralt Day Pizza Time. I'm sorry, I fucked it up. It's De Shoopwoop Le Geralt Day - Pizza Time. You have to pronounce the hyphen. Yep. And the first member of the family she played as was LaCroix de Choupoop Le Geralt Day - Pizza Time, followed by Ice-T, spelled like the rapper, Ice-T. And just because, in the game she played with her family, because they loved it so much, they wound up getting their own legacy version to play with their family. The family name she picked was Shorts Blanket Von Laundry Bin. She is the best at picking family names.
I literally think she just kind of looked around her room.
Yo, what are you trying to say about Aardvark, Shorts Blanket Von Laundry Bin?
Anyway, but so again, talking about shitty like B horror movies and things like that, the other two games that are I put them together because they're very similar. Is a game called Last Friday, and then there's another one called Camp Grizzly, and they're both basically you're playing as characters in a shitty slasher movie. And I mean, you get the idea. You're basically running from like a Jason-esque character in both of them around like a camp, and you're trying to like not die. It's, you know, you've got the standard character archetypes of like jock, nerd, big boobed teenage girl. Like, I mean, that's
a jock, nerd.
But I mean, again, I mean that's you have those like the same archetypes that you see in basically every one of those like old slasher movies. You have those in like The Bad Boy and whatever. You have all of that in these in those two games, and you're basically the like killer is mostly controlled by an AI, if I remember correctly. Like they move, like they have like cards that you draw, and that like you shuffle the deck and you draw cards, and that's basically like, oh, they move here now.
Yeah.
And they follow whoever is like making the most noise or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is still a really cool game. I have played Camp Grizzly. I have not played Last Friday.
I definitely would like to play that at some point.
Yeah, I mean it's a super neat game. But yeah, again, it's one of those like you have to like super be into those kind of games to enjoy them. But yeah, so those are like some of the like, because I enjoy the like cheesy, campy horror movie tropes a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I have those have a like they touch my cold dead heart.
My brother recently made me watch two really cheesy, campy horror movies. One of them I enjoyed way more than I thought I was going to. Like, I didn't think I was going to survive past 10 minutes, and I wound up watching the whole thing and finding it oddly charming. And the other one, I thought about disowning him for a minute. The first being Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh my god, I fucking hate that movie.
Well, obviously you hate that movie. Like, gee, I wonder why you hate it so much.
I mean,
but,
it's
like,
hella stupid, but
yeah, it's so stupid. And I was like, you know what? Like, I can't take this, but I wound up loving it. And the second one was Jason X, where I was like, I want to die.
Yeah, Jason X is really bad, but the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I had to watch that movie because so I worked in a haunted house. This is something that
yes,
not a lot of people would know about me. I worked in a haunted house for like 5 years.
We should talk about that on an episode in more detail.
But one of the rooms that, like, so we had 4 different houses. Mm-hmm. One of which was Clown Town, and I hated it. But as you're leaving Clown Town, you would have like these big things of cotton candy that were like shaped like people, like body bags almost, and they would have like body parts sticking out of them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? I don't understand. And they were like, you're watching this movie now. And I was like, no.
There was and I was like, no. There was only one thing from Jason X that I truly enjoyed, and it didn't come until the end, and it was like when they have the simulator run like the 2 campers. And they're like, we love this, and premarital sex. And then it cuts away, and they're like, oh man, it looks like it's working. And then it cuts back to him, and he's beating one of them with the other one in sleeping bags. I thought that was the funniest thing ever. I was like, all right, one redeeming thing.
But
yes,
I will take a small detour from campy shit to go back to zombies temporarily, because I hate zombies. These 2 games are really, really, really good. Zombicide is a very, very expensive board game. I'm gonna start there. When Zombicide first came out, I bought it at a Barnes and Noble because they were the only place that had it. I couldn't find it. Was out of stock on Amazon. It was out of stock basically everywhere. Barnes and Noble had it for $500.
What?
And I bought it because I'm an idiot. But this was again when the game first came out. It has since very much declined in price. I think you can get it for like maybe $50-$60 now. But to get all the expansions and things like that to it,
is it made of pure gold?
It has a bunch of minis. Like Zombicide 1 has over 79 minis, I believe. Which is why it was so expensive. Because minis, the more minis you add to a game, the more you increase its price by a shit ton.
I suddenly feel so much better for having spent a ridiculous amount on a pop vinyl I really wanted.
Yeah, it's a... I mean, again, if you buy all the like expansions and stuff like that, I mean, you're probably going to pay into the thousands of dollars to own every expansion to this board game. I used to own every expansion to this board game. Mm-hmm. I have sold a lot of them to people who wanted them. But yeah, Zombicide is a great game. If you pick it up, I would very much suggest that you start with like Black Plague. So the original Zombicide game had, so you play as heroes, and again, the zombies are controlled by an AI. So basically you have a deck, you draw, it says, oh, these zombies spawn now. And then zombies, like, depending on the type of zombie, they move a certain amount of spaces each turn. And if they're in the space with a hero, they, like, automatically attack. That kind of thing. But and zombies always go first, basically. So it's zombies first, then heroes. But you have there's a friendly fire mechanic in Zombicide, where, so let's say you're targeting, like, you're shooting into a space, you want to save a friend who is about to die to a bunch of zombies.
Yeah.
If you shoot the things that are in their space, you will always hit your friend first.
Oh.
Then the zombies.
Oh, that's cruel.
Unless you have a scope, and then you can target whoever you want to.
Okay.
So, I mean, you would have to have, like, a shotgun with a scope or whatever. It's fucking dumb. They changed the way that works in Black Plague.
Yeah, they fucking better.
So, they changed the way that the friendly fire targeting thing works. You have a 50-50 shot of hitting either the zombies or your friend, and it's based on a die roll. Like, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
Than automatically targeting your friend first, then whatever else.
Because at that point, like, you might be killing your friend anyway, so what's the point of trying to save them?
Yeah. A lot of the game was just like, well, you're on your own, peace, and going off to do your own thing. They've changed the way that the friendly fire mechanic works in Black Plague, so I would very much highly suggest going to Black Plague first and playing, like, Black Plague and Green Horde, things like that, though they're the fantasy versions. So you're playing as, like, fantasy characters, like you have, like, a barbarian and a hunter or whatever, like a ranger. You have those kinds of characters instead of, like, you know, kid with gun A, kid with gun B. But yeah, like, I very highly suggest Black Plague and Green Horde and stuff like that first, and then go back to the older games, because you can take those rules from Black Plague and stuff and modify the original Zombicide games, because the original Zombicide games are still fun and they're still a lot of fun to play. But I like taking the rules from Black Plague and adding them to the original Zombicide.
Yeah.
But it's a super cool game, and it's a big game. So the tiles are, like, in the first game you can have, like, a board that is 3 tiles by 3 tiles, which is huge because these tiles are big. Like, if I were to put all 9 tiles out on the floor for a scenario, like, it would take up, like, I mean, it takes up, like, a whole table.
Really?
It's a massive game.
Huh.
And we used to, like, take a big ass, like find the scenario that we could use all 9 boards for, and, like, do almost like war game style. Like, we would have, like, drinks and stuff, and we would pace around the board and be like, okay, this is our best move here, and the zombies are gonna move this way.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it would be like this really cool, like, strategy game thing, and it is a really cool, like, strategy game.
Yeah, my family played, like, I don't know who started it. I think it was my dad and my Uncle Mike, I think. But, like, somebody in my family, like, started this. It was essentially a homebrew version of Risk. So, like,
yeah,
I never really played it, but I didn't know the real rules until, like, a couple of years ago, the day after a New Year's party that I slept over at a friend's house in Jersey, and my brother and I played with them, like, the following day, and I was like, oh, so these are the real rules.
Yeah. But yeah, like, Zombicide is a great game. It's a lot of fun. It's an interesting take on the whole zombie genre.
Yeah.
which I like a lot. I very highly recommend it. It could be an expensive game, and I think that they just put out like a new like expansion thing or a new game thing on Kickstarter recently, but I don't know exactly what it is off the top of my head. But yeah, like it's a super good game series, and they have a ton of stuff for like the series as a whole. Like there's a ton of expansions, there's a ton of stuff you can get. The game actually, like, so if you die in as a hero in these games, 90% of the time you just die. In Zombicide, you can actually come back as a zombie hero.
Oh, that's cool.
So you're still a zombie, but you're still fighting against the zombies. Because your will was just basically so, like, you couldn't die. You couldn't become a zombie. So you're still a zombie.
Yeah.
But you still have your consciousness. And you're still fighting against the zombies.
That's really, like, I don't want to keep derailing you, but, like, I know I've talked about, like, how much I love choose your own adventure books, and especially, like, James Shanup is my favorite author, and, like, I love his books, and, you know, my favorite of all of his books is the first one, Infected, where you play through the zombie apocalypse. And one of the things I've always loved about it is that so long as you are not totally torn to shreds, you can still play as a zombie if you get bit. You know, and I thought that was so cool because, like, you know, as somebody who's played Choose Your Own Adventure books a lot in my life, they're among my favorite things. You know, I'm so used to just, oh, no, you're dead. You have no chance of recovering. This is just, you know, how it is. So that's really awesome that game does that.
Yeah, it's a really neat mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
But derailing from Zombicide to a game about actively fighting in zombie, you know, apocalypse land, to a game where you're basically, it's like very political for a zombie game. Dead of Winter.
In what way is it? What do you mean political?
Okay, so it's a lot of debating one another.
Oh, okay. Like
you're trying
is
to
it like Secret Dio or whatever the fuck it was, or like,
kind of. Okay, so there is a traitor among you.
Okay.
That has their own set of objectives, and they're trying to undermine the rest of the players. Okay. But you're trying to keep a settlement of people alive. So you've got people back in a settlement that you've got to feed, and you've got a bunch of like objectives that you need to complete, and they require like different resources like food or tools or guns.
Yeah.
And there's also a mechanic called a crossroads mechanic, where if certain requirements are met, like they read off a card and like events happen. And you can gain other heroes that way, or you can kill people like off that way. There's a lot of different like things to it, but it's very much a debatey game of being like, okay, somebody put we needed 6 things of food, and somebody put 1 thing of guns in here. Like, we got our 6 things of food, but somebody put a gun in here, right?
Yeah.
If somebody put something like a gun, it's -2 of what was put in. So even though you got your requirement, it's -2.
All I keep thinking is Reaper would be like, if you're tuning in for the first time, Reaper is my brother. Reaper would be terrifying to play against in this game. He's really good at debating, and he's really good at like
But
let me put it this way, one of his nicknames was the Revolutionary for a while. So like he can roll with the best of them.
I mean, one of the things about this game is that like there's an exile mechanic. So if there's somebody in the group who you think is the traitor, then you need to argue your point and get everybody else on your side, because it's a unanimous vote whether or not they get exiled.
Yeah.
So it's trying to figure out who the traitor is, because each person also has a secret objective that they're trying to complete. And it could be barricading doors or whatever. Each one of them has like their own like suspicious activity.
So it's a little bit like Town of Salem.
Sort of. Like,
where, like okay.
Each person is like, they all have like a thing that could make them look suspicious if they try to complete it. Mm-hmm. But they get like bonus points if they do it. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to complete their own objectives as well as keep everybody alive for a certain amount of time and that kind of thing. And if they're doing things that are of their own objective that look suspicious, then they risk getting themselves exiled because people will think that they're the traitor, even though they're not. Mm-hmm. And then the traitor roles have things on there that make them look not suspicious. So it's like, just collect these resources or whatever, so that they don't look super duper suspicious, but so that they kind of blend in. So it's this weird balance of trying to figure out who the hell the traitor is, because it's really hard to figure it out.
That's really cool.
But you have one person who's trying to undermine you, and instead, like, you are still going out and searching places and fighting off zombies and killing zombies and stuff. But it's also like, if your trash builds up in the settlement, like, morale goes down, and if you have too low morale, then you die. So you have to like make sure that you're constantly cleaning out the trash, and it's debating who is going to like go clean out the trash rather than like do their turn or do something useful on their turn. They're basically just throwing the trash away and things like that. Like, it's a really cool game, and I think it's one of Bat's favorites, actually. But it's a really, really, really neat game.
I've never heard of this game before now. I would love to play it with you guys.
Yeah, it's super neat, and again, like, it's a more political zombie game, but it's still in there with zombie games, and it's still really good, and it still like has that same vibe of like what it would be like surviving in like an apocalypse with a group of other people who are also surviving and trying to keep everyone alive, and tensions running high.
If the Last Light crew, if we all played this game, I know exactly how it would go. Immediately, Luke would be like, oh, Jen is totally the traitor. It would be trying to vote her off.
Meanwhile, he's the traitor.
What? Meanwhile,
I said, meanwhile, he's the traitor.
Or no, or we all think he's the traitor and he's not, and it's really Austin. But toward the end of the game, when Austin thinks it's okay to reveal that he's the traitor, he will start laughing. Like he did during Secret Dio, which was one of the most endearing things he's ever done. He was just like, we have such a great group. And Sandwich would probably just win the whole thing.
But yeah, it's a super cool game, and moving from zombies to another cool, like, I guess, like, dead thing.
Okay.
Mysterium.
We played this
is a game that we played one time before.
Oh yeah,
where one person is a ghost and everybody else is like psychics and mediums trying to like figure out how they died.
I thought of this game, like I thought of our playthrough the other day. It just popped into my head, and I got so mad at myself all over again, because I was like, I understood like exactly what it was that you were trying to tell me. but I was overthinking everything, so that's why I was picking the wrong answers.
Yeah.
Because you made a comment before we played, like, you know, oh, Jack should totally get everything I'm about to say. And I did, but I was like, no, that's too obvious, I think.
But that you have a person who's playing as a ghost and is basically trying... the ghost has, according to the rules, amnesia. Mm-hmm. And doesn't necessarily know exactly who killed them, but they're, you know, one person has the clues to, like, figure out, like, what actually happened, and it's trying to figure out those things before the end of the game, and the ghost can only communicate in, like, these cards that have pictures on them. Mm-hmm. It's a super, super cool game, and with the right ambiance, and... like, I've played this game in a room lit entirely by candles with, like, ghost amazing. Makeup and everybody drinking wine and like, role-playing as they're, like, they're amazing. Psychic and stuff. Yeah, it was super cool. And I love this game a lot. It's one of my favorite deduction games. But, yeah, Mysterium is super, super, super cool. And... I highly recommend it if you have like a group gathering or something that people are going to, and you kind of just want to, you know, have something that you can play. Another game that is also great for groups are like the multitude of different werewolf games that are out there. There's like One Night Ultimate Werewolf and just regular werewolf. It's a social deduction game where each person has like a role, and there are 2 werewolves among you. It's like Town of Salem.
I was just gonna say, so that's like Town of Salem.
Yeah, this is what Town of Salem is based off of. Like also like Mafia, whatever. Yeah. Like this is exactly that. There's a ton of these kind of games out there. One of which also recently, I don't know if it's still active or not, but there should be a game coming out soon called Blood on the Clock Tower, which is the same kind of like social deduction game. They have like a Kickstarter, but they like there's a demon and there are other townsfolk who are consulting with said demon, and each instead of so even if you a lot of like the werewolf games, if you die, you just have to sit silently for like the rest of the game.
Yeah.
In Blood on the Clock Tower, you can vote as a ghost. Like the ghosts get a vote. You can still talk. You can still argue. You can still get your revenge from the grave.
That's super great.
And
doesn't Town of Salem have something similar? It's been ages since I played.
I don't know. I haven't really played too much.
I don't think the ghosts can vote, but I know that there's like anybody who died, like there's a graveyard chat, and you can there is a graveyard chat, yeah. And I know that that's what it is. There's like a feature where like there's a medium or something, or somebody can have a vision from a ghost or whatever.
Yeah,
one of the ghosts can help.
The medium can like look at I think they can actually see the ghost chat. Mm-hmm. So they can like communicate with one of the ghosts and be like, hey, what exactly happened or whatever. But yeah, like Blood on the Clock Tower is really cool. You get to like each, instead of like there being like villagers or whatever who just don't have a role, basically everybody has some kind of secret power that they get. Whether that's from like, you know, knowing who the person next to you, or being able to see if the people next to you are evil, but not knowing which one is which or whatever. And you don't want to give too much information away, but it's a lot of social deduction games like Werewolf and stuff. Like it's really awkward in the beginning because nobody knows what to say. But apparently in this one, it's a situation where you want to talk. There's so much that you want to say because you all have information, but you don't know how much you want to share. There's also a mechanic in the game where you can be poisoned. And if you're poisoned, you don't necessarily know that you've been poisoned, but the information that the mediator or the storyteller is giving you is false. So if somebody
I wish you
were
could see the look on my face. I literally just went like,
yeah, so somebody poisons you and you do your roll in the night whenever you wake up, like the mediator is now lying to you and telling you false information about the people who are next to you or whatever, is giving you false information, and they can corroborate the demon's story or whatever. Like, and also there's a rule in the game which I like a lot. That is, if you talk over a new player, you can be killed in the night. So if there's a new player at the group,
yeah.
like you can, like the mediator can just choose to kill you. The demons don't have to. The mediator can just be like, "Oh, sorry, you died in the night." Like, the mediator is in the rules for it is they're told to basically help the losing team.
Okay.
And so you keep the balance, and it's this really cool, like...
What do you mean by new player, though? Is it like...
So if somebody who's never played or has never been into these kind of games before comes in to like try it out, if other people who are like experienced at the game start talking over you, then the mediator can just be like, "Oh, sorry, you died in the night," and like so that the new player can, so that they can experience stuff. The mediator is also told that like they can make it so that like they have almost full control over what goes on.
Yeah.
So they can be like, "Hey, if two people like if you're killed like 2 games in a row, and you're a new player, like the mediator can be like, nah, like that's not happening. I'm not letting them die twice."
That's cool.
Or things like that. Like, it's really neat. There's also roles for people who came into the game late. So if somebody was coming to a game night and they show up late,
yeah,
there are roles for showing up late. There are traveler roles and fabled roles and things like that. There are roles for people who are leaving early. There are roles for people who are coming in late. Like, it's a really neat game, and they thought of everything. And so I think it would be I think it's going to be a really cool game. And I highly suggest checking it out if their Kickstarter is still active, because I mean it looks really neat.
Yeah.
It is, from what I've seen, it is slightly expensive. But also
but is it $500 expensive?
No. But so the game, the box for the game is a giant like tome. It's a big book that you walk around with during the game, and the back is felt lined, and all of the pieces have like felt like backing on them so that you can stick them in place in the inside of the board, and they'll stick there and not slide around, so you can walk around and you keep your keep track of everything. And
But I get why that would be expensive.
Yeah. It's like $79.
Yeah. I'm really angry at that $500 price tag for that other game, by the way.
Yeah.
In case you can't tell.
Again, it was literally miniatures. It was by Simon, which is Cool Mini or Not, and they had a whole ton of miniatures, and that's why it was super expensive.
Oh, okay, but why $500 though?
I don't know. I really don't know. Like the actual price tag for whenever I bought it at Barnes & Noble was like, I think it was like $450, and it came out to being like $530 something after everything, because I had put I had them hold it. So that added, like, they had a holding fee for holding it until I got there and that kind of thing. So it ended up being like $530 something.
when you were like, oh, it was a little expensive, I was expecting like $150 or whatever, which like I would have been like, well, yeah, that's expensive, but I can understand that. And you were like, oh, $500. I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah. I mean, it yeah. Yeah.
Like, I can understand, I would be able to understand 150, maybe even squeeze 200, but $500.
Yeah. Again, it's I am excited about the Blood on the Clock Tower game. I might actually back it. So we'll see, but I kind of really want it.
I mean, it sounds really awesome.
Yeah, it sounds really cool, and they thought of everything, and I'm really excited about it, and I kind of want it real bad. But I'm also gonna go through. I have like 4 more to kind of talk about real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So, a couple games that if you a lot of these are like games for bigger groups, like 4 or 5 people, or up to like 8 to 13 people, things like that. I'm going to talk about a couple games that are for like small groups. If you only have like 1 or 2 people that want to play a game, Gloom is a game where each player has like a family, and you want to kill them. Like you want to make them as miserable as possible and then kill them untimely.
So it's The Sims.
Kind of. So like you have cards, and the cards are clear, by the way. All the cards are clear, and they have like point things in them, so you put them over top of your family cards or whatever, and they have the modifiers, and you can see them through the other cards.
Okay.
But you want to try and make your family's like morale or self-confidence or whatever go as low as possible before you kill them, and you only score dead family members at the end of the game. So you want to make your family as miserable as possible and then kill them. Which is it's a lot of fun. It's a super fun game because like they were mauled by bears, or like the ways that you can make them miserable and kill them are like really ridiculous and stupid and funny. But it's got like this gothic like horror feel to it. Like it's really cool.
I gotta check this out.
they're like the drawings are kind of like Tim Burton-esque and stuff. Like it's really good.
Bless.
And then you have Pandemic, which if you want to play a game where the world is basically going to be killed by some disease, which to me is terrifying.
Yeah.
You like the world is going to be this mega virus has been going around, and you can go like cure it. You play as doctors trying to cure this like super mega virus, and it's a really cool game. There's also a legacy version of it, where basically like the world gets destroyed and shit, and it's once cities go into anarchy and get destroyed, like you can never go back to that city again. That kind of thing. It's really cool. And then there's so if you want a game that's like true crime,
yes,
which is a thing that like interests some people.
Go on.
There is a game called Letters from Whitechapel, or Whitehall Mystery, where one person is playing as Jack the Ripper. Mm-hmm. It's a hidden movement game, so there's a bunch of different like circles on a board that have numbers on them.
Yeah.
So one person is playing as Jack the Ripper, and everybody else is playing as, and it could be like 2 or 3 people, are playing as cops trying to find him. And your job is to commit a murder in the 4 quadrants of the board, like the 4 corners of the board, basically. You want to go to each quadrant, and in Letters from Whitechapel, it's kill 4 people. In Whitehall Mystery, it's like scatter body parts across the city in 4 different places.
Okay.
You're basically a Jack the Ripper knockoff. But you wanna like go around the board and not get caught. And there's a couple like movement cards that you can get to like help you escape as Jack, and there's some like help things that you can get. But it's like trying to deduce, like, because every time you go to a place and you're like, have you been here? Like, if he has been there, he has to put a little token on the board, and you can follow his trail, like the places that he's been. It's really cool, and it's a really fun game, and I enjoy playing as Jack, because I'm really good at it. But it's
and how many people, like up to how many people play that?
4. So the person playing Jack, and then up to 3 cops.
Okay, and what's the minimum amount of people play?
You can play as like one person playing Jack and one person playing all of the cops.
Nice.
One person playing Jack, and then like the 2
So
people, but they
2 to 4 people.
Yeah, like if you have like, if it's one person and 2 other people, then they can agree on where they want to move the 3 cops, like,
yeah,
as a group. And then if you have 3 people, then each one gets their own cop that they can control. There's also another game that's kind of similar. It's another like hidden movement game, but it's Fury of Dracula, which is basically the same thing. One person's playing Dracula and the other are playing vampire hunters who want to kill him, and you're traveling across Europe trying to like create vampires, and you want to get enough influence and stuff to like, it's a really neat game. But yeah, those kind of games, I really love hidden movement games. So those are some really cool like horror themed hidden movement games, stuff like that. And then finally, if you're into things that are like the Cthulhu, there's Arkham Horror and Eldritch Horror are some super good like Lovecraftian horror games, where you're trying to basically stop like fucking Cthulhu or every single like every single great old one's name just left my brain, which I guess is a good thing. But yeah, like you're trying to stop some great old one from like awakening and destroying the world, and it's like it's like 20s, and there's a whole bunch of different things that are going on, and it's a really neat game. I've played a couple. I've played both of them. I've played Arkham Horror and Eldritch Horror. I prefer Eldritch Horror.
What's the difference?
It's just different scenarios and things like that, different rule sets. They're made by different people, but they're like sort of the same game.
Yeah.
From what I understand, but I think they're made by different people. They might not be, but because like Letters from Whitechapel and Whitehall Mystery are like basically the same game, but they're made by the same people.
Yeah.
But Arkham Horror and Eldritch Horror are basically the same game. They just have like a couple different like rules differences and things like that. But there's like a vast like library of different versions of this game. So there's a board game variant, there's a card game variant, there's a dice game variant. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of different variations for these games, but they're all great, and I've played most of them. So I very much recommend them. They've got like a couple different like expansions for each one and stuff, and they're super cool. I really like the whole like Lovecraftian horror genre kind of thing, like cosmic horror. So those are some really good games for that. If that's your bag. But yeah, I mean, these are just, some of my picks for like really great horror games. There's a ton more out there. There's more hidden movement games that are more like sci-fi horror.
And I'll be sure to include links to both your blog post about it and also, like, to the various ways to either support or buy these games in the description and stuff.
Yeah, I super, like, I'm really hoping that, like, the Kickstarter for Blood on the Clock Tower isn't over, because I really want people to check it out. It looks really cool, and I'm super excited about it. And, like, I really want I really want these guys to do well.
I mean, it sounds great. Like, I've said a couple times now, like, board games aren't necessarily my thing, and, like, the more you told me about it, the more I was like, but I need this now.
Let's see. As of recording this, there's still 24 days to go.
Oh, okay.
So,
oh yeah, this episode will be up in time before that ends.
Yeah. So yeah, like, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
people can listen to this and definitely go check it out. It looks really cool. And again, as of recording it, they've gotten $275,688 of their $65,000 goal.
Ooh.
So, and they have 3,046 backers.
Dude.
So, like, obviously this game looks really friggin' cool, and a lot of people like it. I think Shut Up and Sit Down recently did a review talking about the game, and it looks amazing, and I want this game so bad. I'm literally probably, like, this next week going to back it. So,
Alright, cool.
but yeah, like, I really want this game. It looks really, really, really cool, and I definitely go check it out. But yeah, with that, I think that's all the time we've got for this episode. But our normal, like, final advertisements out of the way, you should go check out our friends Luke and Jen, Gideon the Grey Fox and the Bad Clam, over at the Fierce Ferrets website and at twitch.tv/Fierce Ferrets. They're wonderful human beings who graciously allow us to put our podcast up on their website because they believe in us and we love them.
Yes. And also you can check us out on social media. We have a Twitter account and an Instagram account. Both of them have the same exact name. It's at the COTV podcast. So come by, follow us, get updates. And also, if you have any ideas for episodes or what have you, shoot us a line on there and we will see about covering it for an episode and give you a shout out if we use your idea.
Yes. Also, you can check us out in there are the other Fierce Ferrets podcasts. We are in Drunk Fandom, which will be coming back soon. TM. And we will also be hopefully playing Last Light again soon. And that episode will be up probably almost as soon as it's done. So if you enjoy listening to people playing things like D&D and Starfinder, I play Wonderful Bug Boy, and Jack plays a awesome android. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
Android Mystic. And yeah, so we're in Last Light, which is a super fun podcast. And yeah, we should also
have our Patreon is live, and so is our coffee account. So if you like what we do and you want to throw a couple bucks our way, please consider donating to our Patreon. If you can't afford a monthly donation, but you still want to help out in a monetary way, coffee is a one-time thing. And if you do happen to support us on Patreon, our $5 tiers and up get early access to episodes, usually the Thursday before they come out for general release. And we also give them a shout out at the end of every episode.
Speaking of, I think our 2 patrons are still Jerda and Brandonson.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
You guys are amazing, and we love you, and thank you for the support.
Yeah.
And I think with that, that's everything.
Yes.
So, until next time, sweet dreams.
Bye.